It's your Locked On Flyers podcast for Monday, October 10th. Your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that cannot believe the regular season has officially started, even if it's over in Europe. And we've got actual Flyers games this week.
We do. I'm focusing on those games.
Yes. All right, let's get this show going.
Your Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, once again, I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here, as always, with Russ Cohen, who's on Twitter at Sportsology. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. You can follow us on Twitter at Locked On Flyers. You'll keep up to date on our episodes, Flyers news, all that good stuff. You can also email the show at lockedonflyers@gmail.com. We will have a mailbag this week, so get those questions in. On today's show, we're going to talk about the latest Flyers news and cuts at camp, some interesting developments there over the weekend. We're going to try and get our final roster predictions in that are coming out today. Plus, it's Monday, so we will have our Nemesis of the week. Locked On Flyers is free and available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, wherever you are listening. So subscribe. You'll get all of our episodes here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Plus, we're over on YouTube, so subscribe there as well. Russ, I gotta say, I am a little surprised that the Flyers put Zack MacEwen on waivers.
Yeah, I was a little surprised too, but we did talk about the possibility of it happening based on, the fact that they had
Mm-hmm.
some other players that played that way. And again, this is a different coach, a different system. And, I guess he doesn't think Zack MacEwen's going to score. He did give him opportunities in some of the preseason games, and he didn't
Mm-hmm.
do it.
Yeah, you're right. That's exactly what we talked about. That if it were up to us, we wouldn't have him on the team because
Yep.
there was just too many of him, and he did not show anything more than what we saw from him last year. So I think that honestly, that gives me a little bit of hope here that maybe some good decisions are going to get made.
Yeah, I mean, it should. I mean, at least that's one where you say, okay, it could free up a spot for a younger player. Could.
Yeah, we'll definitely be getting to that. The cat may have some other
Hmm.
words to say about that, but also on that waivers list, Cooper Merity, which hopefully that means he's healthy, but we'll see if it's just to get him off the roster for
Yeah.
now when we check in with the Phantoms. But and yeah, now we're down to basically the last hurrah of what the cuts are going to be. Of course, we still don't have some injury updates for sure. They say Carter Hart's going to be ready. They say Joel Farabee's going to be ready, but I don't know. Still have a few days, and I'm sure that's going to go down to the wire.
Yeah, things can always happen, right? So you never should count any of these things as 100%. And look, Artem Anisimov is a big factor too here. I don't know what his injury is, but if he's able
Hmm.
to come back from it, that's probably going to upset the apple cart for a few players.
Yeah, and that's a case of where I think, John Tortorella is going to go with the devil you know versus the devil you don't with
Yes.
Anisimov versus MacEwen, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't even think it comes down to that. I think it could be much worse in the sense that it comes down to Anisimov versus Frost.
Ugh. Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute here because that was sort of I think the comment of most concern over
Yes.
the weekend from Tortorella that, he likes what Frost is doing, but he's not sure yet. He still needs to get to know him. And
People say good
man,
things about him. Like,
you're
you've had
right.
all summer to review tape. You could have
Hmm.
talked to him at any time. You could have coached more, except for the games that you did coach. Like, there's no excuse for a coach to say he doesn't know the player at this point or know him well enough. It's not good enough.
Yeah, and I think, for those of us who watched his preseason, like Frost had a pretty solid
Yes.
preseason, and I think And you've said on this show as well that Frost has done what he needed to do to make this
I
team.
felt like
Now,
he did.
yeah, if it was a much better Flyers team, maybe not, but this is the
Mhm.
team we have, and I think Frost more than proved that he deserves to be on the roster, especially given all the various settings that he was put in. He's put in all sorts of different situations and really stepped up.
Yeah, so what I fear now is with Cates at center, because he's going to put Cates at center, which is fine. He's a good center. Like I said, you know, I guess the player now
Prefer him at wing, right?
yeah, is good with playing it. We always heard that, hey, maybe he doesn't love center, but he's going to play it, so that's fine. So you got him at center. You might have Anisimov at center, and then if that happens, I think it might come down to Frost or Hodgson on the wing. And the problem is, I could see Torts going with the size of Hodgson. I'd be happy for Hodgson, but really sad for Frost because I think he's really kind of would get screwed here based on the fact that I really do think he should be playing center.
Yeah. Yeah,
But we'll
I
see.
agree with you. Yeah, I know. Still got a few days before opening night, and those rosters are set and those lines are set. So I'm sure we'll be studying practice in great detail with
I mean, if
related
John
to
wants to
that.
ask me, I could tell him all about Morgan Frost.
The other interesting development over the weekend is, of course, that set Flyers fans a little bit on fire. Is Wayne Simmons is on waivers from Toronto, and God bless Wayne Simmons. I love him to the ends of the earth, but he does not need to be on the Flyers. Like, I want better
No.
for him, to be honest,
Well, I
right
mean,
now.
I don't think there is better for him though. I mean, his skating is
Yeah,
really not there.
yeah.
His points have dropped tremendously. He's now just pretty much a fighter. I don't know if any team's really going to take him at this point. But even if you like what you said, this would still be a bad situation. I know there have been some
Mhm,
former players online saying, "Hey, he should come here," and it's like, no, that is the
mhm.
wrong way to go about this. That actually would make this situation worse, I feel.
Yeah, if he wants to have a reunion and have a good time, go to the Senators because
Right.
that'll be a good time, and there might
Agree.
be a place for him there.
Yeah, I mean, if they're looking for that type of player, maybe there is. But yeah, for the Flyers, it would just be bad because you got to move ahead. You can't keep looking behind at some of these players. There's enough of that going on already.
Mhm. Exactly, exactly. So, I alluded to it a little bit, but we still obviously have some question marks at goaltender. I still haven't heard exactly what's going on with Felix Sandstrom, and so, based on them waiving Grosenick, I think that it's Ersson, right, in the backup spot right now, which is, I think he has the talent, but like we've been saying, he just doesn't have the experience, and it feels like throwing him in the deep end too soon.
Right. That's my issue. I like him, and I do feel
Mhm.
he will be an NHL talent. Always have felt that way, but now it's like, okay, so if Carter Hart is ready to start the season, is Hart going to go Thursday and then Saturday, and then when are you going to decide to put Ersson in for his first game? Like that's see my feeling is here if you had a more veteran backup, and this wouldn't be Sandstrom either, but just as an example, if you had a more veteran backup, they really wouldn't worry about who he's going to play against. But now that it's his first NHL game, you do kind of feel like they're going to worry about who he's playing against.
Right, and the Flyers' first back-to-back is the 2 Florida teams in Florida.
Great.
Which so it's not an ideal situation to throw him in there. Now, can he handle it? Maybe. I mean, I'm
Maybe.
not saying he can't, but I think that's a real rough scenario to throw him in there.
Yeah, it's a rough scenario. We don't really know what the Flyers defense is going to look like as far as
Mhm.
how effective they're going to be with Torts. So that could be, it really could be a bad moment for him. We hope that it's not.
Exactly, exactly. I think, it seems like from what we've heard, Joel Farabee will start in the first game. He has been cleared for contact, but we haven't really seen enough of him yet in a full practice with contact. So I worry about him from a health perspective and in terms of a confidence perspective, but I think that they're going to probably put him in there, right?
It really seems that way. My gut feels that way, but if you think New Jersey is going to just sort of like let him ease into it, they're not gonna.
Mm-mm.
And so that's the other thing. It's kind of like, I wouldn't do it. I even if he told me he's 100%, I'd be like, you know what? Keep skating with the team. I really have to make sure I'm going to wait another week. I'm just going to wait another week just out of precaution.
Yeah, I think that's the right move as well. But, we don't make those decisions
No,
for
we don't.
them. So, all right. Well, what we will do is get our final roster predictions to you. But first, we're going to hear about athletic greens.
I want to take a moment to talk to you about Athletic Greens. I started using Athletic Greens because I wanted better gut health, more energy, optimized immune system, and hated taking pills and vitamins. And I wanted a supplement that actually tastes great. With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, and focus. It costs less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy free, or gluten free. Athletic Greens contain less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals, or artificial anything while still tasting good. Athletic Greens supports better sleep quality and recovery. It also supports mental clarity and alertness. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million pills and supplements to look out for your health. Make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1 year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
All right, Russ. So we are close to the wire here with what this final roster could look like. And I don't know, man. It's like it is a tough thing to call
It is.
because I just don't know what we're going to do here, especially because we don't know what the injury situation is going to be in terms of how guys are going to get classified and who's going to get put on LTIR or not. And I think that's the struggle, right, in putting
Yeah.
together this final roster because I think Ellis is a given. Obviously, Couturier is most likely going to be put on LTIR
I don't
based on
know.
what's
I
going
mean,
on. But
the way he's skating right now, if he goes on LTIR, I think he has to go for at least 6 or 8 weeks, right? It's something like that.
yeah, or like 30
So
days or something.
they may do that, and I'd be okay with it. But just the way that he's skating and everything else, I can't tell you it's a guarantee yet.
Yeah, it's just a struggle because you sort of run out of cap space. If Atkinson and Couturier are
Yeah,
on the roster, then there's really no room for any extras on the front end. There just isn't.
yeah. Then they're going to run a player short at least, maybe two.
Probably two, to be honest.
Yeah, to make
If
the
both
cap.
of them if both of them are on the roster, they're going to have to play with just the 12 forwards,
Yeah,
which is I think a real tough road, especially if they're going to end up having to put some of the younger guys in anyway. You know, I think that is the biggest problem. But I think that where you end up then is on opening night. You have Hayes, JVR, TK, assuming Farabee, Frost, Allison, Cates, Lawton, Tippett, Delorier, Lazinski, and then either Hodgson or Jackson Cates, right?
yeah. I think Hodgson will make it over Jackson Cates because of
Yeah.
size. I feel like
Right.
Torts likes him because he's that big banging guy. Hey, I'll be happy if Hodgson makes it. Now, the other bugaboo here is, let's say Atkinson and Couturier don't make it, and let's say Anisimov is healthy. Then
Mhm.
you might say,
Mhm.
"Uh-oh, Frost is out, Anisimov is in,"
Yep.
and then
And
the
for
same
what
lineup.
dollar figure is it? It would have to be exactly what Frost is making.
Yeah, it would have to be that exact amount, and then you probably would swap out Lawton, would go to the wing, Cates would be at center.
Mhm.
And that might be what you're looking at here.
Which, God, I mean, in some ways I like it
I like it
because
because Lisinski's at center, but
Mhm.
that's good. I mean, that gives him a chance until Patrick Brown's back or not back. We don't know any. We haven't gotten any update on him.
Yeah, and I also like it because it's either 3 or 4 younger guys making the
Hmm.
team, which is an absolutely necessary thing, and getting them more experience and really seeing what Owen Tippett is gonna be this year, I think is super important. And seeing if Wade Allison can stay healthy is
Well,
also
that's the other
important.
thing. So, like, if that all of a sudden starts to be an issue and there are playing two players short to begin with, then that's really going to wreak havoc with the roster. And you
Well, that's
know,
when you hope Couturier is ready,
yeah,
right?
yeah, that's so a lot of I know they're talking about fluidity, and it's a great way to just use a buzzword to kind of keep everybody at bay and off balance, but um they've got more than a few red flags here, and at least we'll see some guys in there, but again, on defense, there's not a lot of opportunity on defense.
Nope. I think that, obviously we know the top 4 that's locked in with Provy and D'Angelo, Sanheim, and Risto, assuming Risto is healthy, right?
Yeah,
But and Braun will slot in on the third pair as well, and then it's really like Sealer with maybe an option for Addard or Zamula,
that's
and
it.
or one
That's
of
what we're
those
looking
2.
at.
Yeah, and so, I mean, again, to me, if we don't have Cam York on this third pairing, I want Zamula or Addard in that spot, and I want Nick Sealer in the press box.
Right.
But I just don't think that's gonna happen.
And Nick Sealer will end up playing forward at some point too, because
Well,
he's
as
had
he
to,
does, right?
as he does, because they're going to be short, because or Allison's going to be nicked up. Like it's going to get like that. Like that's
Mhm.
be prepared for that. Like that's what Torts did with Stu Bickle back in the day when he was a defenseman and he
Oh,
threw him
Stu
in.
Bickle, that's a name.
Yeah. So Sealer's going to be his Stu Bickle, it looks like. So for better or worse, this is what it looks like we're looking at. But then I also feel like there's some things that are going to be happening down below that are not very fair either, because of how many veterans are on this roster that make the team and the ones that get sent down that are going to be sucking up playing time in Lehigh.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point as well, especially, Connaughton is down there now, which he would have been the perfect guy to sit in the press box, right?
Yes.
But he's gonna be taking up time, hopefully not as much time as some of the other guys, but still some ice time down in Lehigh Valley, on defense. So, it's just a real conundrum here because I don't want Zamula or Addard sitting in the press box. Like, that does
No,
nobody any good,
that
which
does
is
nobody
like,
any good.
yeah, so it's like, hopefully one of those 2 can earn this spot on the third pairing, so that we have Nick Sealer in the press box.
And the other thing is, like with Connaughton down below, and maybe the other two you mentioned, all of a sudden Mason Millman's back in Reading. Like, he won a chance. He won. He was in the playoffs with them last year. He was their best player last year. How is this going to help him develop?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. It just seems a little questionable, and I just don't understand that part of it either. But I think just this weird trickle down effect that it's having on the other
On a
teams, like
bad
you
team, though,
said.
this is like, if this is a good team, like you're the
Yeah.
Tampa Bay Lightning, you say, I get it. Guys have to wait their turn. I get
Mhm.
it. This is a stacked lineup. This is a stacked lineup of some good players and then some mediocre players.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
Yeah, there just has to be room for them. Otherwise, they're not gonna figure
Kevin
things
Connaughton is
out.
not your future. Nick Seeler is not your future.
Mm-mm.
And there's a point where you have to look at it and say, all right. I mean, I think Lehigh has enough of the older rookie types or prospect types rather that I think they'll be okay. But once you start putting guys that have had careers already, like Connaughton and or Sealer for spells or whatever, and you're just taking away time from prospects down there, that doesn't do anybody any good either.
No, it does not. So I think like we're pretty close to knowing what this roster is going to be. I think, like we said, the injuries are the biggest question mark in terms of how people are classified, and that'll determine any extras that they can have on the bench in terms of on the forward side. Hopefully they can have a seventh defenseman on the roster because
Yeah.
that was dicey when they weren't able to do that every day and had to constantly be banking cap money. It was it I think it
It feels
also
like they're heading towards that again.
I know it does, and it's just brutal because it feels like, at least to me, that it affects the cohesiveness of the team when you're
Mm-hmm.
constantly like doing paper transactions that it really makes things a little
Well, what it
unpredictable. And then
does
when
is it
someone
makes
gets hurt,
yeah,
it's harder.
it makes things uncertain for the players because a lot of times they know it's just a paper transaction, so they're not really going anywhere. So then it's kind of like for them, and then for the media covering it makes it really hard. For the fans knowing what's going on, it makes it really hard because a lot of times these guys are not really going up and down from Lehigh or whatever. It's just paper transactions, and that's not great for anybody. But you got to do what you got to do.
Exactly. All right. Well, we've brought up a lot of subjects that could potentially lead to our nemesis of the week, which we will get to after this. Okay, Russ. We are going to name our nemesis of the week. And if you are newer to the program out there, each Monday we look at the week ahead for the Flyers and say, what is the thing that is going to cause the most problems for this team? How are we feeling about the team? And just pick something that is really irritating us in the world of the Flyers and in hockey. And man, last week we talked about these very final cuts and the goaltending questions. I think we've clarified the goaltending a little bit more, but
Mm-hmm.
it still brings us a lot of concern. It's not that the question is still there, but the concern it has sort of shifted a little bit around Ersson and whether just like throwing him in the deep end is the problem. And I think this week the nemesis for me is what we were exactly just talking about is injury management and the cap, because I think it would be really, really good for this team to have extras around and practicing and skating with the team all the time. And if they're going to have to run a minimalist roster all the time, and we have a whole bunch of question marks in terms of injuries and how they're going to be classified, and are these guys going to be ready? And I think that it's really just this injury management and the cap that has me worried.
Well, I'm going to go a different route. Recently, the WWE was at the Wells Fargo, and Gritty
Mhm.
tried to give a gift to the Miz, and the Miz attacked him behind stage and slammed him
The
to the
Miz.
ground. The Miz did, and
Oh,
I am not a fan of Gritty, but like, come on, all of a sudden a WWE guy is going to attack a mascot. That's weak. So that the Miz is on my list now because that's just like he was. What's really funny is, and what the belief is on the reason why this happened is because he wasn't getting enough airtime on the pay per view, so he just decided to do this out of nowhere and try and create something. So he's on my list now for that because that's just weak.
yeah, it's always been so interesting to me because I don't really know as much about The Miz as a wrestler. I just remember him from the real world and when he was
Right,
talking about becoming a wrestler, and like God
right.
bless him for actually like he's living his dream, I
He
guess.
is living his dream.
But it kind of bothers me a little bit if he's going to attack Gritty.
Yeah, yeah. He's a punk.
Ugh. All right. Well, We are going to be finding out the final roster today at some point. So listen
They have
do
until
at
5 o'clock though, so it could drag.
5 o'clock. Yeah, it could, but we still have a lot to talk about this week leading up to Thursday's opening night game. We are going to wrap things up with our Flyers fun thing. And I haven't really been watching the Standard that closely. Their little behind the scenes
Yeah,
series
I haven't. I'll be honest.
that the Flyers have been doing. But I will say that I am a sucker for having a mic'd up Kevin Hayes, which is really good. And there's dog content in this one as well.
Dog
So
content's always good.
if you're going to watch any of them, I feel like this may be the one to watch.
Now, is the dog on the ice?
No, it's Ivan Provorov's dog.
Provorov's dog. Okay.
Yeah.
But then, people complain about that because Provorov had brought his dog to Citi Field and that whole thing. But this is the dog's in Philly at the moment.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I like that. That's always good content.
All right. That'll do it for today's show. We'll be back tomorrow with those final cuts and how we think the lines will be shaping up. We talked a little bit about the Phantoms today, and we have some preseason action for the Phantoms and their roster to talk about. So much going on. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. You can send us in your questions via Twitter at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com, or you can comment over on YouTube. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
You made us your first listen today. Now make your next listen Locked On NHL. Locked On experts give you a daily 30-minute podcast on all things NHL all year long. So stay up to date on everything in the hockey world with Locked On NHL, your daily NHL podcast. Have a great day, everyone.